damn good sheriff.
It's gonna be a wreck.
Sheriff Country is a CBS oh my god, I can't even say it. Police procedural drama and a spin-off of Fire Country starring Morena Baccarin as Sheriff Mickey Fox in the fictional town of Edgewater, California. The series follows Fox as she balances law enforcement duties with personal challenges, including her ex-con father and a wayward daughter. Now, this is being a spin-off of Fire Country. Is funny because it's kind of considering the fact that, I personally do like Fire Country, but as you may have heard in the season 4 review, it might be falling off. With that notion, though, I do want to state that I actually do really love Sheriff Country. I feel like it's kind of, showing the future of how CBS and networks like Fox could handle weekly procedurals, because part of the reason why I kind of fell off shows like NCIS and stuff like that is because every single week, it's literally just a new case, like every single week. You'll hear me talk about that briefly, with shows like Tracker and stuff next week, and even Marshals too, which, good God, spoiler alert for my review score on Marshals. But yes, you always have like these overarching stories continuing throughout the season, instead of, waiting until the finale to have some massive bombshell drop like NCIS whenever it'd be like, remember that time Gibbs did this? And you're like, whoa, it's like a flashback or something, and somebody from his past. And it's like always happened in the finale. Man, I remember watching this shit as a kid. Anyways, I want to start by saying the cast is awesome. Morena Baccarin and Matt Lauria are both your two main cops. Morena Baccarin plays Sheriff Fox. Matt Lauria plays Boone, her deputy. And they have a lot of great chemistry together. They are really great when it comes to being loud, proud, and in charge as far as their chemistry and as far as being cops and stuff like that. Now, I do have a couple issues with how Boone is written, so I will start with that. It is the same writing team, I'm pretty sure, as Fire Country, and it felt really weird to me that, considering Boone is kind of like the stoic character, really badass earlier on in the season, he seems able to really get stuff done, and he doesn't really have any problems as far as being a cop. And, you've got some stuff going on, like as far as, like, his wife that you find out about later on. But whenever they have, like, a crossover, or whenever they need him, I guess, to look kind of bad, the example I want to use is, for example, he's drastically a different character in the Fire Country crossover. I don't know if that was written before. I'm assuming they did so to make him look, to make Bodhi look better. And I feel like that's weird. We can't have two dogs out here. No, we can't. Because he acts like a puppy dog in that episode. And then he goes right back to normal next episode. And I'm like, okay, where was that Boone at? And even like that, some characters in this season, you feel like episodes were written by different people, which they might have been, because sometimes so many characters will be like, I'm just completely different today, and I'm like, you wouldn't act like this, especially in the end of the season. I'm not spoiling it, but they try to put two characters together, and I was like, it's kind of coming out of nowhere. I don't like that. But anyways, we have a whole lot of drama when it comes to the show. You have like Morena Baccarin's ex-husband going with one of her deputies, and I guess used to imply being her friend at one point. And then you also have her daughter, who I would say the first half of the season pretty much dedicated to her remotely because of this murder storyline. But really, once we're kind of done with this stuff, the characters do start to disappear, which I hate when shows do that. For example, after the murder thing happens and everything's cleared and whatever, and we start the second half of the season, the daughter's kind of disappears. She shows up, like, I want to say, I can't remember how many episodes it is, but like, let's say it's 20. If the murder stuff is like 6 to 8 episodes, she might show up again like episode 15. Like, it went on enough where I was like noticing. I was like, is she not home? Like, she lives here. She doesn't live anywhere else. Where are your characters? I hate when shows do that. And that's my biggest problem at Marshals. It's almost turned to a Marshals review. Why is Tate never at home? Anyways, and the only really consistent side character outside the police is her father, who is my favorite character in the show. I love him so much. He does a really great job. I love his performance. I love him in this role, but he's the only one that's really, really consistent when it comes to a sit-down character, a character I see almost weekly, outside of the main cops. Now, the other characters that are very back and forth are the other two deputies. They kind of disappear, reappear too. One of them, it makes sense because of a storyline, but the other one, I was like, where's Homeboy? It just ain't there. That's kind of my problem with the show, like I said, like Marshals, where you'll just have characters that are just like, I don't know if that's like a Paramount CBS thing. I don't know if it's like a mandate, but like, quit writing so many characters if we have a budget problem. Okay, stop. Because it really throws me off when like it's a husband and wife and their son, and then like for 4 episodes, the son, who's a toddler, won't be home. Now, I also really like how this show feels more realistic than Fire Country. While a lot of the drama is definitely heightened for sure, having it be family-based makes a lot more sense, and it works better for the story. I also really like how this feels like a small American drama, town, whatever, a lot more than Fire Country. And what's so funny is they kind of have the same number of sets, but for some reason, Sheriff Country just feels like warm and cozy. Like, oh man, Sheriff Country's on, you're sitting there. They do great with the crossover stuff. Like there's an episode where Manny shows up putting out fire in a trash can, and this actually feels lived in. One of my biggest complaints with modern network shows like NCIS and all these spinoffs or whatever is that you have to wait for some giant crossover for these characters to interact. Like with Law and Order, and most recently, they shouldn't have canceled it. Stabler. You have to wait for a crossover for them to show up. And so I thought that it was really cool that outside of the major crossover episodes, they still had characters occasionally showing up throughout the season. And I also really think that there's a lot of great writing involved with inherited pain and family trauma. And for the most part, I really like this show a lot. I actually really enjoyed cutting this on every single week. I think a lot of the cases are very interesting. There's a serial killer one. I think they have a lot of great supporting cast, a lot of things to do outside of the few characters they kind of let disappear. And honestly, even though I didn't really like those characters disappearing, it's weirdly kind of a good thing because it shows how much I did actually appreciate their writing and how much I did actually kind of like those characters because I noticed that they were gone. For example, I didn't really like the daughter at first, but she actually grew on me. And then when she disappeared, I was like, where is she? And so that actually shows that, in a weird way, I really did like the arcs that they were giving her. Especially with the father. He has, like, my favorite storyline in this season that kind of leads into the last few episodes. And I even enjoyed, a lot of the deputy side stories about a missing sister. And I think that being, I think that with that being a really good arc and setting up a mini case kind of underneath the main bridging story that we were setting up, the way they layered this writing was really well done. You do have some filler episodes, like some episodes is really just, hey, it's a random case, and you might get 2 lines of dialogue that do whatever. But for a CBS procedural drama, I think it's definitely one of my new favorites because I really, really loved all the characters. There's only a single character in the show that I hated, and that's saying something, especially for modern TV, because there's usually, there's not one that I hated. I'm thinking about Fire Country again. Anyways, Jesus, man, that show has dropped for me, man. I hate that. But anyways, I'm going to give Sheriff Country 8 out of 10. I think it's really, really good. I think it's one of the strongest first seasons of TV I've seen in a while, especially for a procedural show like this. And honestly, I think that it's outpacing Fire Country right now. I think the writing's stronger here, and I don't know if it's because it's the first season, and they're purposely doing that, and purposely having maybe more people looking over stuff or whatever, but I really, really think that it's worth your time. Especially if you're a Fire Country fan like me and you're into this anyways, you're probably already watching it. And so with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I want to take a moment to thank my Patreon producers for supporting the channel. If you want to do so as well, you can head down to the link below in the description below, or hit the YouTube join button. You'll get spoiler reviews like Obsession, and you'll get movie vlogs, movie reactions, stuff like that. And if you can't do so, perfectly fine. Totally free to hit that like and subscribe. Helps out the algorithm. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one.
That matters. And at the end of the day, I'm responsible for this town.